The arrival. The Kepler expanse stretched across 17 star systems, a region of space that had belonged to the Zephyron Dominion for over 2 centuries. Their control was absolute, their military might unquestioned. At the heart of their power sat Commander Thrall, a warrior whose scales had turned silver with age and battle experience. His command vessel, the Crimson Talon, led an armada of 800 warships, the largest military force ever assembled in this sector of the galaxy. Thrall's 3 eyes scanned the holographic display before him, showing the deployment of his fleet in perfect formation. Each vessel represented the finest achievements of Zephyron military engineering, sleek ships with curved hulls that gleamed like polished gemstones under the light of distant stars. These were ships that had conquered 14 different civilizations, ships that had never known defeat. The commander's chest swelled with pride as he observed the tactical perfection of his armada. They were positioned in a spherical formation, covering every possible angle of approach, ready to respond to any threat within seconds. The bridge of the Crimson Talon hummed with quiet efficiency. Officers from various Zephyron colonies worked at their stations, monitoring sensors, weapon systems, and communications. The atmosphere was relaxed, almost casual. This was supposed to be a routine patrol, a show of force to remind the lesser species of the Dominion's supremacy. Nothing exciting ever happened in the Kepler expanse anymore. Every civilization within 100 light-years knew better than to challenge Zephyron authority. That peaceful monotony shattered when Sensor Officer Kryn suddenly stiffened at her station. Her clawed fingers danced across the controls, her violet eyes widening with confusion. "Commander Thrall, we have an unidentified contact emerging from hyperspace," she reported, her voice carrying a note of uncertainty that immediately drew the commander's attention. "The vessel is not broadcasting any identification codes, and its configuration does not match any known species in our database." Thrall rose from his command throne, his massive form casting a shadow across the bridge. "Display the contact," he ordered, his voice a deep rumble that resonated through the chamber. The holographic projector flickered to life, revealing the image of the unknown vessel. What Thrall saw made him pause. The ship was unlike anything in the Dominion's extensive records. Where Zephyron vessels were elegant and organic in design, this craft appeared brutally industrial. It was a dark gray wedge covered in angular plates and sharp edges. Strange protrusions jutted from its hull at seemingly random intervals, and the entire surface was scarred and pitted, as if the ship had been through countless battles and never bothered with repairs. "Magnify," Thrall commanded, leaning forward with interest. As the image enlarged, more details became visible. The ship's hull was covered in what appeared to be symbols and markings in a language the translation computers could not decipher. Weapon ports lined every surface, far more than any reasonable design would incorporate. The vessel was smaller than most of the Dominion's cruisers, yet something about it radiated menace. Weapons Officer Drax spoke up from his station, his voice tinged with amusement. "Commander, I am detecting only one life form aboard that vessel. A single pilot controlling that entire ship." The other officers exchanged glances and quiet laughter rippled through the bridge. The very idea of one individual challenging an entire fleet was absurd, the kind of foolish bravery that got species exterminated. Thrall's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a Zephyron smile. "Perhaps some new species has decided to test our resolve," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "Kryn, attempt to establish communication. Let us see what manner of fool has wandered into our territory." The communication officer worked her controls, establishing a quantum link with the unknown vessel. After a moment she nodded. "Channel open, Commander." The view screen flickered, and for the first time the bridge crew of the Crimson Talon laid eyes on a human being. The figure that appeared was smaller than any Zephyron, with only 2 eyes positioned on a flat face. The creature's skin was a pale tan color, and dark hair was pulled back tightly from its features. What struck Thrall most was the expression. Where he expected to see fear or desperation, he saw only calm determination. "This is Captain Sarah Chin of the Terran Defense Forces," the human said in perfect Zephyron standard language. "You are currently in violation of the Soul Accord, which designates this region of space as a demilitarized zone. You have one opportunity to withdraw your forces peacefully. This is your only warning." The bridge exploded with laughter. Officers doubled over their stations, some slapping their consoles in mirth. The sheer audacity of the statement was hilarious. One ship, one pilot demanding that 800 warships withdraw. It was the most ridiculous thing any of them had heard in their entire military careers. Thrall raised a clawed hand, and the laughter subsided. "Captain Chin," he said, his voice filled with mock politeness, I am Commander Thrall of the Zephyron Dominion. Perhaps your sensors are malfunctioning, but you face 800 warships, each one capable of reducing planets to ash. Your single vessel, impressive as it may look, cannot possibly stand against us. I will give you one chance to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. We may show mercy to brave fools. The human's expression did not change. Commander Thrall, you have 5 minutes to begin your withdrawal. I strongly suggest you take this opportunity. The Terran Defense Forces do not make idle threats. Kryn spoke up from her station, her voice now carrying genuine concern. Commander, the energy readings from that vessel are unusual. The power signature is fluctuating in patterns I have never encountered. It is almost as if the ship is generating more power than its size should allow. The readings do not make sense. Some of them are registering as negative values, which should be impossible. Thrall waved a dismissive claw. Sensor malfunction, nothing more. No species can bend the laws of physics. He turned his attention back to the view screen. Captain Chin, you have 10 seconds to power down your weapons or we will open fire. This is your final warning. 4 minutes, Captain Chin replied, her voice flat and emotionless. The countdown has begun. Drax consulted his tactical display, his expression shifting from amusement to confusion. Commander, I am detecting thousands of microsignatures separating from the human vessel. They appear to be deploying some kind of drone network. Each unit is incredibly small, no larger than a Zephyron fist, yet they are spreading out in a perfect geometric pattern around our entire fleet. Thrall's eyes narrowed. Defensive measure, most likely. Some kind of sensor disruption system. He straightened to his full height, his decision made. All ships, arm weapons and target that vessel. We will show this human the price of arrogance. On my command, fire a warning volley across their bow. Let them see what real firepower looks like. The fleet responded instantly. 800 ships adjusted their positions, their weapon systems coming online with a chorus of power surges that lit up every sensor in the system. Energy cannons charged, missile bays opened, and plasma projectors glowed with deadly intent. It was a display of force that had made entire civilizations surrender without a single shot being fired. 3 minutes, Captain Chin said, and for the first time, Thrall thought he detected something in her voice. Not fear but something else. Something that made his scales prickle with an unfamiliar sensation. Warning, Drax called out suddenly. The drones are activating. Energy readings are spiking across the entire network. Commander, each of those tiny drones is outputting power equivalent to one of our battleships. That is impossible. The combined energy generation would require a sun. 2 minutes, the human captain said quietly. Thrall felt his confidence waver for the first time. Something was wrong. The numbers did not add up. The readings made no sense. But he had come too far to back down now. His reputation, his honor, the pride of the Zephyron Dominion itself was at stake. Fire the warning volley, he commanded, his voice firm despite the doubt creeping into his mind. Show this human what they face. The 5-minute war. The void of space erupted with light as 800 Zephyron warships unleashed their opening salvo. Brilliant streams of energy lanced through the darkness, converging on the lone human vessel from every conceivable angle. Missiles streaked forward, leaving trails of ionized particles in their wake. Plasma bolts the size of small moons hurtled toward their target. It was enough firepower to vaporize an entire planetary system, all focused on a single ship. Commander Thrall watched the tactical display with satisfaction, already preparing the statement he would make about this quick victory. The weapons would impact in 3 seconds. 2 seconds. 1 second. And then nothing happened. The energy beams, the missiles, the plasma bolts, all of it simply vanished the instant it reached the perimeter marked by the tiny drones surrounding the human ship. There was no explosion, no dramatic collision of energies. The weapon's fire just ceased to exist, as if reality itself had decided those attacks were no longer permitted. The bridge of the Crimson Talon fell into stunned silence. Every officer stared at their screens, trying to comprehend what they had just witnessed. Thrall's 3 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme confusion in Zephyron physiology. Kryn's claws trembled over her console as she struggled to make sense of the sensor data streaming across her displays. Commander, the sensor officer finally managed to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. The weapons did not hit any kind of shield. They were not deflected or absorbed. According to these readings, they were displaced into a higher dimensional space. The humans have created a barrier that exists partially outside our normal universe. This level of technology should not be possible for any species we have encountered. Before Thrall could respond, the human ship finally moved. It did not accelerate gradually like conventional vessels. One moment it was stationary, the next it had shifted position instantaneously, appearing 5 kilometers to the left of where it had been. The drones moved with it, maintaining their perfect geometric arrangement. Captain Sarah Chen's face remained on the view screen, her expression unchanged. 1 minute, she announced. Commander Thrall, you have failed to withdraw. The Terran Defense Forces will now demonstrate why humanity does not make empty threats. The drones activated simultaneously. Each tiny device began to glow with an intense blue-white light that hurt to look at directly. Thrall felt his heart rate accelerate, his instincts screaming warnings that his conscious mind was still struggling to process. All ships, evasive maneuvers, he roared into the fleet communications channel. Deploy countermeasures and prepare for defensive formation. But the Zephyron fleet, for all its size and power, moved like a lumbering beast compared to what happened next. The drones fired, not conventional weapons but something far more terrifying. Beams of twisted spacetime itself shot out from each device, creating visible distortions in reality. When these beams intersected with Zephyron vessels, the results were catastrophic. The first ship to die was the destroyer Phantom Strike, positioned on the outer edge of the formation. The spatial distortion beam struck it amidships, and the vessel simply folded in on itself. Metal screamed and tore as the ship's structure was compressed into an impossible geometry. Within 2 seconds, a warship that had been 300 meters long was reduced to a sphere of crushed metal no larger than a personal transport. The compressed wreckage tumbled through space, still glowing from the heat of its own destruction. Shields are ineffective, Drax shouted, his voice cracking with panic. The spatial distortion passes through our defensive screens as if they do not exist. We have no defense against this. All across the tactical display, red indicators began appearing as ship after ship fell victim to the human weapon. The drones worked with perfect coordination, each one targeting a different vessel, ensuring maximum efficiency. There was no wasted effort, no redundant attacks. Every beam found its mark. The cruiser Eternal Darkness attempted to flee, its engines pushing to maximum thrust. The ship had barely moved 10 kilometers when 3 drones intercepted it. Their combined beams created a triangular field around the vessel, and suddenly the cruiser was no longer moving through normal space. It phased in and out of visibility, caught between dimensions, its crew experiencing horrors that Thrall could not even imagine. After 5 seconds of this torture, the ship imploded, collapsing into a singularity that winked out of existence. Thrall watched his carefully assembled armada disintegrate before his eyes. Ships that had been the pride of the Dominion, vessels that had crushed rebellions and conquered worlds, were being destroyed as casually as insects. The humans were not even using their main ship's weapons. Just the drones. Just the tiny autonomous devices that had seemed so insignificant moments ago. Commander, we have lost 140 ships, Kryn reported, her voice hollow with shock. The attack has been ongoing for 90 seconds. At this rate, the entire fleet will be destroyed in less than 4 minutes. One of the massive battleships, the Wrath of Zephyros, attempted a desperate counterattack. It was the fleet's most powerful vessel, carrying enough weapons to level continents. The battleship fired everything it had at the nearest cluster of drones, unleashing a barrage that would have overwhelmed any conventional defense. The drones responded by creating a localized gravity well. The battleship's own weapons were caught in the gravitational field and redirected back at their point of origin. The Wrath of Zephyros was destroyed by its own firepower, torn apart by the very weapons meant to save it. Thrall felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. Pure, primal terror that made his scales stand on end and his heart's pound in his chest. This was not a battle. This was an execution. The humans were not fighting them. They were simply removing obstacles with cold, mechanical efficiency. Captain Chen's voice cut through the chaos on the bridge. Commander Thrall, you now have 30 seconds to order a full retreat. After that point, I will target your command ship and you will not survive. This is your final opportunity. Pride warred with survival instinct in Thrall's mind. To retreat would mean disgrace, the end of his military career, possibly the end of his life at the hands of Dominion leadership who did not tolerate failure. But to stay meant certain death, and the deaths of every officer under his command. He thought of the young recruits serving on these ships, the families waiting for them back home, the generations of Zephyron culture and history that would be lost if he let his pride doom them all. All ships, Thrall's voice cracked as he spoke into the fleet channel. All ships, immediate withdrawal. Disengage and retreat to Rally Point Sigma 7. This is a direct order from Fleet Command. The response was instantaneous. The surviving Zephyron vessels, nearly 200 ships had already been destroyed, abandoned their formations and fled. Engines flared as they engaged emergency faster than light jumps, desperate to escape the killing field. The human drones did not pursue. They simply returned to their positions around the dark gray wedge, the terrible blue-white glow fading from their surfaces. Thrall collapsed into his command throne, his body shaking with exhaustion and shock. The tactical display now showed a debris field where his mighty armada had been. Twisted metal, frozen atmosphere, and the bodies of thousands of Zephyron warriors drifted in the void. 4 minutes and 37 seconds. That was how long the battle had lasted. Nearly 300 ships destroyed or crippled in less than 5 minutes. Captain Chen's image remained on the view screen. "Commander Thrall, I want you to understand something," she said, her tone no longer flat but carrying a weight of conviction. "Humanity did not develop these weapons because we are aggressive or cruel. We developed them because we had to. Our history is filled with conflicts, with wars that nearly destroyed our entire species. We learned, through centuries of pain and loss, that the only way to ensure peace is to be so overwhelmingly powerful that war becomes unthinkable." Thrall raised his head to look at the human, seeing her clearly for the first time. "Why did you warn us?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "You could have destroyed us all before we even knew you were a threat. Why give us a chance to retreat?" "Because humanity values life, Commander, even the lives of those who would be our enemies. Every ship I destroyed today carried people with families, with hopes and dreams. I gave you 5 minutes because I hoped you would choose wisdom over pride. I am genuinely sorry for those who died because you chose poorly." The communication link closed and the human ship vanished, transitioning to faster-than-light travel with a technology that left no trace, no gravitational wake, nothing that the Zephyron sensors could track. One moment it was there, the next it was gone, as if it had never existed at all. Kryn approached Thrall's command throne, her movements hesitant. "Commander, what do we do now? How do we report this to the Dominion Council? How do we explain that we encountered a species with technology centuries beyond our own?" Thrall was silent for a long moment, staring at the debris field on the tactical display. "We tell them the truth," he finally said. "We tell them that humanity is not to be challenged, not to be threatened, not to be underestimated. We tell them that we found something in the darkness between stars that we were never meant to fight. And we pray that the Council is wise enough to seek peace rather than revenge." The Crimson Talon limped away from the Kepler expanse, its hull scarred, its crew traumatized, its commander forever changed. Behind them, the debris field served as a monument to Zephyron arrogance and a warning to any species foolish enough to underestimate humanity. The message was clear. Earth had emerged from its isolation, and it had brought with it weapons and technology that redefined what was possible in warfare. In the weeks that followed, word of the 5-minute war spread throughout the galaxy. The Zephyron Dominion, humbled by their defeat, opened diplomatic channels with Earth. Other species watched and learned. Humanity had announced its presence to the universe not with words or treaties, but with an undeniable demonstration of power tempered by mercy. Captain Sarah Chin filed her report with Terran Command, noting that the warning system had worked as designed. Humanity had defended its territory without unnecessary bloodshed, giving the enemy every chance to retreat. It was a victory, but one that she knew would haunt her. Every life lost weighed on her conscience, even enemy lives. The dark gray wedge-shaped vessel, the Resolute, continued its patrol of human space, a silent guardian watching over the fragile peace. And throughout the galaxy, a new understanding emerged. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and they had brought with them both the technology to destroy worlds and the wisdom to choose when not to use it.